Question number 5b. X Limited has just paid dividend of rupees 10 per share. That is D0. Expected growth rate is 15% for next 5 years. So growth rate for the next 5 years is 15%. Afterwards, it is likely to grow at the rate of 10% for perpetuity. So from 6th year onwards, it will grow at the rate of 10% for infinite period. Investors' required rate of return is 25%. Means cost of capital is given 25%. Calculate. Suppose Mr. F is purchasing the share today and he is going to sell the same after 5 years. Calculate price that he is ready to pay for the security today. That is a question. Today means in year 0. Now friends, for the purpose of valuation, we have a simple concept that the present value of the future cash flow is the price. So what happens, let's say whatever the investor is going to receive on purchase of the security, it will be converted in present value term to find P0. So it is year 0, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, year 6, year 7 and so on. We know that the life of the security is for perpetuity. Language of the question speaks like this, that Mr. F is purchasing the share today and he is going to sell the same after 5 years. Means it has been provided very clearly to us that investor is going to hold the security for a time period of 5 years. Like that, so the information is given to us. Everybody is requested to pay attention. Let me explain you properly. The investor is going to hold the security for 5 years. So when we say that during this 5 years he will receive dividend in the first year, second year, third year, fourth year and fifth year. Whatever dividend that investor is going to receive, all of them will be discounted in present value term. So it is first year dividend, second year dividend, then again third year dividend, then it is fourth year dividend, then it is fifth year dividend. So dividend from end of year 1 to end of year 5 will be discounted in present value term. So this is what say the present value of the dividend, and this is what say one of the price component that I am ready to pay. That is the way when we purchase a bond, we pay two components. One is the present value of the interest and another is the present value of the principal. Similarly, say we will be paying two components. One is the present value of the dividend and so the present value of the price of the security which investor is going to receive at the end of the 5th year. And that is what we understand is the P5. What does the term P5 stands for? P5 stands for price of equity share, say at the end of the 5th year. How do we determine, how do we compute the price of the security at the end of the 5th year? Let us understand that. The way we have just understood the kind of calculation for P2, it is D3 divided by K minus C. This is what the kind of working that we have recently understood. Exactly the same thing will be applicable here as well. Wherein we will compute the P5. It is D6 divided by K minus C. That is the way we are required to make the calculation of the P5. The term P5 stands for the price of the equity share at the end of the 5th year. What price will you fetch? Whatever dividend that the investor is going to receive, that is the prospective investor. That is the person to whom I am going to sell the security is also going to see that what is his prospective cash flow. So whatever the prospective cash flows that that investor has, its discounted value at the end of the 5th year will be the price at the end of the 5th year. Of course, that will also be discounted in present value term to compute P0. This is the process that we are going to have. So we understand that first of all we will prepare a working note wherein dividend will be calculated from end of year 1 to end of year 6. Then we will make the calculation of the P5. How P5 will be calculated, friends? P5 will be calculated as D6 divided by K minus C. That is the way the P5 will be calculated. 6-year dividend has been computed by us, divided by cost of equity is 25% minus growth rate. What is the growth rate? Growth rate is 10%. Okay. For the first 5 years it is 15 and then it is 10%. So divided by 10%. This will be helpful to us to make the calculation of the P5. Then we understand that, say, first year, second year, third year, fourth year and fifth year. First year dividend, second year dividend, third year dividend, fourth year dividend, fifth year dividend plus P5. Whatever this cash inflow which investor has will be discounted at the rate of 25% in present value term. So here is the discounting factors provided to us from end of year 1 from end of year 1 to end of year 5. These 5 years discounting factors have been given to us. So end of year 1 factor is 0.8, second year, third year and so on, and we will make the computation of the present value, and present value of the future cash inflow is P0. This is the process which we are required to adopt for calculation of the P0. Let us write down the answer. Working note number 1, calculation of the dividend per share year 1 to year 6. Okay, dividend per share for the first year. It will be calculated like this. It is just paid dividend of rupees 10 and the growth rate is 15%. So what will happen? 10 rupees into 1.15 raised to 1. So the first year dividend is 11 rupee 50 paise. Second year it is 10 into 1.15 raised to 2. So it is 11.5 into 1.15. So it is 13.225, that is 13.23. This amount can be calculated as 11.5 into 1.15 as well. Okay. The first year dividend is grown for 1 time, or year 0 dividend is grown for 2 times. Next, it is 13.23, sorry, 10 into 1.15 raised to 3, or otherwise 13.23 into 1.15 raised to 1. That is, the preceding year dividend is compounded for once, or otherwise we take year 0 dividend which is compounded for 3 times. So 15.20875. So it is 15.21. Then it is 10 into 1.15 raised to 4, or it is 15.21 into 1.15 raised to 1. So it is 17.49. 10 into 1.15 raised to 5, or 17.49 into 1.15 raised to 1. So it is 20 rupees 11 paise. Then 10 into 1.15 raised to 5 into 1.10, or otherwise you can calculate the answer like this as well. 20.11 into 1.10. that comes to 22.12. That is the way dividend per share for year 1 to year 6 will be calculated. Then P5. Let us see that's how to make the calculation of P5. It is D6 divided by KE minus C. 6th year dividend is 22.12 divided by KE minus G. G growth rate is 10% after 5 years. It is 10%. So 22 rupee 12 paise divided by 0.15. So 22 rupee 12 paise upon 15%. That comes to 147.47. And this amount is going to be received year 5 end. So the cash inflow from end of year 1 to end of year 5. And then P5. First year it is 11 rupee 50 paise. Second is 13.23. Third is 15.21. Fourth is 17.49. Fifth is 20.11. Plus P5 value. It is 147.47. So 20 rupees 11 paise plus 147.47. So 167.58. These cash inflows will be discounted in present value term to find P0. Second year 64 paise. Third year 51.20 paise. Fourth year is 40.96 paise. And fifth year 32.77 paise. All of them will be discounted in present value term. So 11.5 into 0.8, that is 9 rupee 20 paise. 13.23 into 0.64, 8.47 paise. 15.21 into 0.512, that comes to 7 rupees 79 paise. 17.49 into 0.4096, so 7 rupees 16 paise. 167.58 into 0.3277, so 54.92 paise. Taking into account all of them, will make the calculation of the P0. 9.2 plus 8.47 plus 7.79 plus 7.16 plus 54.92, that comes to 87 rupees 54 paise. That is the way the P0 is calculated. Right on answer?
काय
So write down a note for the answer.
काही नाही.
First one write down. In order to compute P0, comma, we will calculate present value of dividend and present value of the price. Full stop. Second point, investor is selling security at the end of fifth year, comma, so we find P5, full stop. It is indicating present value of dividend at the end of fifth year. Full stop. Second question, Mr. B is purchasing the share today and he is going to sell the same at the end of the 7 years to Mr. C. What price Mr. B will be ready to pay for the security today? That is, we are required to make the computation of the P0, say from the given information. Now this time question, this time it has been given that the investor is going to hold the security for 7 years. So what we have to do, we are required to make the computation of the dividend for 7 years. For the first 5 years, we already have calculated answer. So we don't have to calculate it again. We know that the first year dividend is 10 into 50, that is 10 into 1.15, that is 11 rupee 50 paise. Second year it is 13.23. Third year it is 15.21. Fourth year it is 17.49. Fifth year it is 20.11. Sixth year it is 22.12. Further it is growing at the rate of 10%. So 22.12 into 1.10, because the growth rate is 10% for perpetuity later on. So we understand that's over here 22.12 into 1.10. Write down answer along with me, 24.33. Then 24.33 into 1.10 once again. So 24.33 into 1.10. 26.76. Okay. Then we will make the calculation of P7. It is D8 divided by KE minus C. 26.76 divided by cost of equity is 25%. Growth rate is 10%. With that, so you can make the calculation of the P7. So 26.76 divided by 15%. That comes to 178.4. It is year 7 end. That is where the P7 will be found. Lastly, P0 calculation. Year 1 to year 7 dividend have already been calculated by us. The first year dividend is 11.5. Second year it is 13.23. Third year it is 15.21. Fourth year it is 17.49. Fifth year it is 20.11. Sixth year it is 22.12. Seventh year it is 24.33 plus P7. P7 stands for price of the security at the end of the seventh year. That is an amount of 178.4. So the seventh year cash flow will be found like this: 24.33 plus 178.4. So 202.73. Now it will be discounted in present value term to find P0. Discounting factors are 0.8, 0.64, 0.5120, 0.4096, 0.3277, then 2621 and 2097. 2621 and 2097. Then we'll make the computation of the present value. First year present value is 9 rupee 20 paise, which we already have found. Second year it is 8 rupee 47 paise. Third year it is 7.79 paise. Fourth year it is 7.16 paise. Fifth year value will change now. It is 20.11 into 0.3277. So it is 6 rupee 59 paise. Then 22.12 into 0.2621. So it is 5 rupee 80 paise. Then 202.73 into 0.2097. That is 42.51 paise. With that, say we compute the P0. 9.2 plus 8.47 plus 7.79 plus 7 rupee 16 paise plus 6 rupee 59 paise plus 5 rupee 80 paise plus 42.51. That comes to 87.52. That is the way the P0 can be calculated. Third question. If Mr. D is purchasing the share today and he is going to sell after 2 years to Mr. E, calculate the price that Mr. D will be ready to pay for the security today. That is the question. Try to calculate answer on your own. So now let us see that, say, how to do answer, all of you. Everybody is requested to pay attention. In the third question, let us see that, say, how to make the calculation of answer. The question says that, say, Mr. D is purchasing the share today and he is going to sell after 2 years. Means Mr. D is going to hold the security for 2 years. Can we say that, say, he will receive dividend in the first year, he will receive dividend in the second year, and at the end of the year 2, he will receive P2. Whatever he is going to receive in future, that is, I am talking from Mr. D point of view. Whatever Mr. D is going to receive in future, the same will be discounted in present value term to compute P0. That is what we understand. This is year and this is 0. So this is discounted, this is discounted, and this is discounted. And based on that, say, we make the computation of the P0. Fine? Okay. First year dividend is 11 rupee 50 paise, which we know that's how we have computed. It is 10 into 1.15. Second year dividend is, I think that's a 13.23. The second year dividend is, yeah, 13.23. It is 11.50 into 1.15. Now, after making this calculation, the computation of the P2 is most important over here. As far as the P2 calculation is concerned, for that, say we have studied a formula like this, D3 divided by KE minus E. Whether this formula is correct? Absolutely, this formula is correct. Can I apply over here this formula to make the calculation of the P2? The answer is no. You cannot apply this formula for calculation of the P2. Why? Because for the purpose of applying this formula, the important condition is that the growth rate has to be constant for perpetuity. Whether the growth rate is constant for perpetuity at the end of the second year means third year onwards, whether the growth rate is constant for perpetuity? No. So you cannot apply this formula for the purpose of calculation of P2. Instead of using this formula, you are required to make the calculation of the P2 in a different method. What is that method? I am explaining that to you. Write down a note for answer. Write down a note for the answer. Answer of the third question. In that, write down first point. In this question, comma, we have to find P2. We have to find P0 from Mr. D point of view. Full stop. Second point, in order to find P0, comma, we will calculate present value of dividend and present value of price. Full stop. Third point, investor is going to sell a security at the end of year 2. Full stop. At that time, growth rate is not constant forever. Full stop. Third year onwards, forever, growth rate is not constant. Full stop. So we cannot apply following formula. P2 is equal to D3 divided by K minus C. Write down this that is formula and then cancel it. Write down this formula and then cancel it. Fourth point, in order to find P2, comma, we have to prepare a cash flow series from prospective investor point of view, that is from Mr. E point of view. Now friends, let us have understanding that say how to make the calculation of P2. Now P2 will not be calculated using this method. That's fine. Okay, then how to do it? From prospective investor point of view, from Mr. E point of view, we have to prepare the cash flow series. Because what he will be ready to pay depends upon what he is going to receive. So we understand that say the third year for Mr. D, fourth year for Mr. D, fifth year for Mr. D, and P5 for Mr. D is first year for Mr. E, second year for Mr. E, and third year for Mr. E. Whatever he is going to receive during this time period, it will be converted into second year end, and based on that, so the P2 will be calculated. Whatever he is going to receive in future, the same will be discounted to the point at which he will buy the security. For him it is year 0, and for Mr. D it will be year 2 end. With that, so we will make the computation of the P2. So what will happen, friends? Listen me carefully. We will make the calculation like this. Calculation of the dividend per share. Year 3 to year 5 from Mr. D point of view, and year 1 to year 3 from Mr. E point of view, because it is the very first year, second year and third year from Mr. E point of view. What is the amount of dividend, friends? It has already been found by us. Let me explain you, do not write anything. We understand that it is 15.21, that is dividend per share. Next, it is 17.49, and last it is 20.11. This is what say Mr. E is going to receive, say in his first year, in his second year and his third year. Then calculation of the price. We can say that P5 from Mr. D point of view, and P3 from Mr. E point of view. We already have calculated the same. It is 20 rupees 11 paise into 1.10 divided by K minus E. That is 25% less 10%. So in that case, the answer is 20.11 into 1.1 divided by 15%. That is 147.47. Rupees 147.47. When this amount is going to be received, if at all you see from Mr. E point of view, then it is his third year. and from Mr. D point of view, it is the 5th year. Then calculation of the P2 will be made. Calculation of P2. How it will be made? Year 1, year 2 and year 3. Mr. E is going to receive 15.21 in the first year. Mr. E is going to receive 17.49 in his second year. And he is going to receive 20.11 in his third year. In addition to that, he is going to receive 147.47. Do not write anything, let me explain you. So it is 20.11 plus 147.47, that is 167.58. This future cash flows will be discounted to the point at which Mr. E is going to buy the security. So for him it is year 0. So the discounting will be using the first year factor, second year factor and third year factor. Taking into account year 1 to year 3 factor, it will be discounted in present value term, and this is the present value. So the present value is 15.21 into 0.8, that is 12.17. 17.49 into 0.64, so it is 11.19. 167.58 into 0.512, that is 85.80, and total of all of them will become P2. So it is 12.17 plus 11.19 plus 85.80, and the total is 109.16, and that is what we understand is P2. Now understand carefully that Mr. D is purchasing the security today. He will receive first year 11.5, second year 13.23, and at the end of the second year he will receive 109.16. Now based on that, so we will make the calculation of P0. In bracket I am writing from Mr. D point of view. In that it is first year and second year. Whatever the amount of dividend, first year it is 11.5, second year it is 13.23 plus 109.16. So 13.23 plus 109.16, that comes to 122.39. Now it is discounted to year 0. So 25% first year factor is 0.8, second year factor is 0.64. So 11.5 into 0.8, that comes to 9 rupee 20 paise. 122.39 into 0.64, that is 78.33. So 9.2 plus 78.33, so it is 87.53. That is the way we'll make the calculation of the P0. I am giving the entire explanation once again for the third part of the question. See, first of all, we understand that, say, for the purpose of P0 calculation, we have to do something like this. That is first and second year dividend and price of the security at the end of the second year. All of them have been discounted to year 0, and that is the way the P0 is found. That is a simple process. Second thing that we understand that, say, for P0 calculation, this formula cannot be applied. For P2 calculation, this formula cannot be applied. Why? Because at the end of the third year onwards for perpetuity, dividend is not constant. So what we have to do? Again, we have to prepare the cash flow series from the prospective investor point of view for the purpose of making calculation of the P2. This is what we are required to do. This is what we understand. Okay. Next, listen me carefully. So the first simple working note, year 1 and year 2, dividend per share has been calculated. There is nothing great in it. Now we are doing the answer from the prospective investor point of view to compute the price that say he will be ready to pay, the point at which he will buy the security. For him, remember that it is year 0, and from Mr. D point of view, it is the second year end. We have calculated the dividend for 3 years. That is till the time the growth rate is becoming constant for perpetuity. This is what the prospective investor is going to receive for 3 years. Then we make the computation of the P3 from the prospective investor point of view, and it is P5 from Mr. D point of view. More relevant is say P3. Okay, that comes to 147.47. Now what the prospective investor will see, I am going to receive 15.21, I am going to receive 17.49, I am going to receive 20.11, and I am going to receive 147.47. Whatever this amount that I am going to receive in future, the same is discounted in present value term, and with that say we will make the calculation of the P2, and that is 109.16. And this is what we understand is the price that say he will be ready to pay based on what he is going to receive. Importantly friends, over here the factor is required to be applied for the first year, second year and third year. Okay, so what I will receive, I am buying the security today, I will receive the dividend for the first and second year which we have found over here, and we will receive the P2. All of them will be discounted in present value term to compute the P0. That is first year dividend, second year dividend, second year end price. This is the cash flow, and present value of the same will be found, and with that so the P0 is calculated. Write an answer. Please write an answer. First working note is dividend per share for year 1 and year 2 from Mr. D point of view. Then prepare the working note number 2, dividend per share from the prospective investor point of view. Giving a small clarification that when we were doing the first part of the question, at that point of time, investor was selling the security at the end of the 5th year. And 6th year onwards for perpetuity, the growth rate was 10%. So for the purpose of P5 calculation, directly you can apply this formula. Not in this question, that the question that we are doing right now. Why? Because 3rd year onwards, the growth rate is not constant for perpetuity. For the purpose of applying this formula, we have understood its derivation that this growth rate has to be constant for perpetuity. That is not the case in case of the 3rd year. When we did the second part of the question, even in that case you can see, we were selling the security at the end of the 7th year. 8th year onwards for perpetuity the growth rate was constant. So we can apply this formula for calculation of the P7. But that is not the case over here. So from prospective investor point of view, we have to prepare the cash flow series to find P3. Write on this further answer. Calculation of the price. Write on further answer P2. Then write on P0.